So again, welcome everyone. This is Making Work-Based Learning Work for All Students. My name is Pam Hunt. I am the Chief Administrator for Ohio College Tech Prep West Region, located in Dayton, currently housed at Sinclair Community College. And today joining me is Lauren Wohl from Stebbins High School, Ann Rush from Butler Tech, and we are hoping that Tom Henderson from our Centerville Kettering Oakwood Compact will be joining us here shortly. I'd like to welcome you all. I think I can speak for Ann and Lauren that we would love to have this to be interactive. So please feel free to drop any questions or comments in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute yourselves and just ask Ann and Lauren questions as we go. So at this point, I am going to turn the program over to Lauren Wohl from Stebbins. I'm admitting a few more people here, Lauren.
Okie dokie.
And then I will share your PowerPoint. So feel free to just let me know when you want me to advance the slides.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lauren Wohl. I'm the Work-Based Learning Coordinator at Stebbins High School. We're a comprehensive school located outside of Dayton. Today we're just going to talk about kind of compare and contrast how we all sort of have the same job, but do things differently depending on our school. Next slide, please. So at Stebbins, we have 10 programs: accounting and finance, construction, criminal justice, digital design, engineering, HVAC, manufacturing, nursing, sports medicine, and teacher academy. And all of our programs do participate in work-based learning in school and with internships. Next slide, please.
And then Lauren, we're having a little difficulty with volume. If maybe you could speak up.
Yes, let's see. So like I said, we're a comprehensive school. Is that better, Pam?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. We have 1,100 students, grades 9 through 12. Our freshmen participate in foundation classes 1 quarter a year, so they have 4 classes freshman year, and they do them for quarter rotations. Sophomore year, they do their specializations, so they're in 2 classes for the full semester, and during that time, they also rotate to spend at least 1 day in each class. Junior and senior year, they become concentrators, and we have roughly 400 students. Next slide, please. So what do I do? So I'm responsible for tracking all of their hours and learning agreements. So for me, some of the other bigger schools, you'll see that they might have a software or some kind of external system that does the tracking for them. For us, since we are smaller, everything that I do is on pen and paper or in a Microsoft Forms spreadsheet. So all of our learning agreements, whether that be for our in-house, like simulated, entrepreneurship, school-based enterprise, all of that is done a hard copy on paper, and I collect and organize all of those. Internships and apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships, those are also done on hard copy. Each kid gets a file folder, and I have a checklist, check off evaluations when they were turned in, how many hours they have at certain points of time. And then everyone records their hours in one big spreadsheet. Every Friday, I send the students an email saying, hey, if you're doing this, this goes under this category. And then like reminding them to log. Last year, I didn't do that. And at the end of the year, I think I had roughly 1,100 entries. Today, I just checked, I'm almost at 2,000. So that is helping get more entries, because all of these kids, they're doing the work-based learning, but are they getting credit for it because they're not recording? So that's helped. I also monitor the progress of the internship students. So like I mentioned with the checklist, that's going over have they turned their evaluation in for this week? How many hours do they have? If I check their pay stubs, do those hours match up to what they've reported? Also checking their grades and their attendance, and then building business partnerships. That's my favorite part, and I'll get into that a little bit more later on. Next slide, please. So tracking, there's the like 4 major kinds of work-based learning. Since we are a comprehensive district with a job site placement, so say Sally is working at a daycare and she's a freshman, and she's also in that freshman foundations class for our teacher academy. When she comes to get her work permit from me, I'd say like, hey, are you in a career tech? I'd find out all this information. Great, let's go ahead and get a jump start on your work-based learning hours. She's working 3 hours a day. That's 15 hours a week that she's gonna get for the whole school year, and she can be ahead of the game compared to her other classmates. So that's a great thing. And again, a benefit to us being smaller, I get to know the kids. I can kind of remember
for support. And I've never owned a pair. I know Sid.
So internships, again, tracking for paid or unpaid. We do have a handful of unpaid internships. So instead of looking at their time cards, they have a little like I guess a handmade time card that they have on the back of their evaluation that they turn in every 2 weeks. And that's where we would check their hours there. Same paperwork we have for the pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship. And then the simulated entrepreneurship, school-based enterprise, and virtual. That can be everything that we do in-house. Again, they all have their own sheet, and those hours get recorded in the student tracker that they have access to. Next slide, please. So back to the weekly grade checks and how I monitor the internship students. I check their grades on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Since we do have kids that they do a week on, week off rotation, it's important for me to keep up with them and make sure that they're keeping up with their work online while they're at work that week. So I can check with them and then check with the teachers, because sometimes it's just they've turned the assignment in and it hasn't been graded. Attendance entry, I enter all of the attendance. I usually do that quarterly for the students that are gone for full days. And then communicating all of this with parents and staff. Next slide, please. So my favorite part of the job is building relationships. So employment opportunities, you can find those various ways. Sometimes if I know a kid, he comes to me and he tells me exactly what he wants to do. I'll set aside an hour, and usually I can find a business that will take him. But sometimes every day I scroll through Indeed, see if anything pops out to me, and then get a hold of those companies. Guest speakers, I feel like those are very beneficial. I can go to a business and talk to them and find out about the job, and then come in and tell the kids. But sometimes that goes in one ear and out the other. So if I can have people come in, or on the other hand, if we can go on a field trip and they can talk to them about their business and the career opportunities and jobs that they can get while in high school, that's really beneficial. And then job shadowing. This year, one of our big things that we did with Kettering Health Network, our sports medicine and nursing students, they go to Soy Medical Center every Monday for 2 hours, and they get to shadow a different department. When I initially signed up for this, I thought it was going to be kind of boring and it was a lot of paperwork. But the first day we had a student get to go in the OR, like fully scrubbed in. This has been a great opportunity. They get to see things just outside of being a nurse's aide. They can see respiratory, they can see radiology, really get their minds thinking about like, okay, what are my other career paths that I can do in the healthcare field? So that was a big bonus for us this year. Next slide, please. Oh, well, that's it. That's it. Any questions?
Please feel free to ask Lauren any questions regarding how Stebbins is handling their work-based learning. Her contact information is here for you to grab a hold of if you'd like to reach out to her at a later date, or even send her a quick email about the presentation today. So I'll give just a moment for anyone that might want to ask a question. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with our participants. Appreciate your expertise in this area. I know it was a new role for you and it's been, what, 3 years now that
To
you've
the
been,
second year.
time goes by fast,
Yep.
doesn't it? So, unfortunately, Tom was unable to join us today, but the presentation and his information is in this PowerPoint that will be housed on the Promising Practices website for everyone. So I'm just going to quickly advance through that and take us now to Ann Rush, who is at Butler Tech. And Ann, go ahead and introduce yourself and take it away.
Thank you very much, Pam. Like you said, I'm with Butler Tech. My name is Ann Rush, and I'm the programming coordinator for Butler Tech, which means that I kind of help to make sure that all of the pieces within the organization fit together and operate within the rules and regulations that we're supposed to be operating in and hitting the marks that we're supposed to be hitting. Before I dive into my part of the presentation, there was a question that came up in the chat. And since it's not a part of the work-based learning world that I necessarily dabble in, I want to kind of give Lauren a chance to try and answer that because I think she's participated in that more than I have. Lauren, the question is, what is the best resource for completing the pre-apprenticeship paperwork with the state?
Are you referring to like how to get a company registered as a pre-apprenticeship?
Yeah, hi, this is Scott Toon. Yeah, I sent that that question. Yeah, I'm just that my question is revolving around that. I know there's the resource on on Do, I guess it's called now. In regards to what you need to do for the pre-apprenticeship, but it's a little bit convoluted. I didn't know if there was an easier resource or working through to get that all that figured out in order to get your pre-apprenticeship approved, if there was some sort of resource that you used to do that.
Yeah, it is kind of tricky, and luckily, I guess, all of the pre-apprenticeships that we had set up, like within the district, my boss set up, but he's pretty good at that. I haven't set any up since I've been here. But I will put his email in the chat and he would be a great resource. Jeff Burke, he's our career tech director here. He would be a great person to reach out and he can help you with that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
No
And
problem.
then can you tell me what part of the state you're from?
Cincinnati.
Okay. And I can offer the Office of Work-Based Learning that's at Sinclair Community College. They act as an umbrella organization that will help you walk through all of the paperwork and get you registered as a pre-apprenticeship site. And they can walk you through it all and answer any of those questions. So I'll be happy to drop that in the chat.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Or you can contact me directly. I'll put
All
my
right.
contact information in there as well.
Thank you so much.
Great. I knew those ladies would be much better suited to answer that question than I was. All right, so moving on to my portion of the presentation. So as Pam said, I'm with Butler Tech. Butler Tech is a large career center founded in 1975 down in Southwest Ohio, basically right in between Cincinnati and Dayton. Our career tech planning district is made up of 14 different associate districts, and we serve approximately 15,000 students per day. So in contrast to Lauren's comprehensive school that has 1,100 students, we're a much larger school district and therefore need to tackle work-based learning significantly different than how Lauren is taking care of it. Within our ecosystem, we have 4 campus locations and over 50 satellite locations that are located in buildings throughout our various associate school districts at both the middle school and high school level. Pam, you can go ahead and switch to the next slide. Thank you. So when we look at work-based learning, we know that there is the metric out there of what we're supposed to meet as a career tech planning district from a state and federal measure. But One thing that we look at when we're doing this is, you know, it's one thing to chase a number and work to just try and meet whatever the metric is. It's another thing to do what is the heart of career tech education, which is quality work-based learning experiences for students. So one thing that we as a district adopted early on, when we were working through work-based learning and what it was going to look like for our district, is we decided to adopt a mission over metric mindset. And what that does is it gives our teachers the opportunity to not just look at chasing a number and selecting their 3 top students and making sure that those 3 top students earn 250 hours. It's how can we do right by and best by all of our students and ensure that as many students as possible get as many quality work-based learning experiences as possible. Honestly, it really broke my heart when I had teachers asking me early on, like, should I concentrate on just getting a few kids 250 hours, or should I concentrate on getting as many of my kids as possible, as many hours as possible? And it was that dilemma that really caused us to kind of focus on this mindset over just chasing a number. In our mind, the opportunity that work-based learning presents for our students is it gives them a chance to learn professional skills and a professional adult interaction with a safety net. So one of the things that I always like to say when I'm talking about work-based learning is I have 3 kids. I have an 11-year-old and 2 9-year-olds, all boys. And overall, they're really good kids. But one of my, favorite things to say is, if I have one more person tell me how great my children are, I might just lose my mind. Because, my kids are fortunate enough that they've learned how to behave well and be very respectful out in public and out in, for as old as they are, professional environments, school, camp, etc. But when they come home, the wheels come off. And that's because I am their safe space. Home is their safe space. Home is where they can kind of unwind if they've had a hard day, whatever. But what happens is, when I think back to my classroom and the classroom that a lot of our teachers have, is a lot of our students don't necessarily have that distinction between a personal persona and a professional persona. So what work-based learning does is it really gives them the opportunity to establish the difference between those two things. And especially for our students who don't have the opportunity to get those experiences through home, we can provide that for them through school. And that's why it's so very important to make sure that we're getting as many students, as many quality work-based learning experiences as possible. The other thing that work-based learning provides is an opportunity for students to have meaningful conversations about missteps that can lead to professional learning. So another one of my favorite stories to tell is back when I first started in career tech education, I worked for a career center where one of our auto technology teachers received a phone call from an employer. And basically, before the instructor was able to get the receiver to his ear, the employer was on the other line saying, "What in the heck is an IEP?" Now, his language was a little bit more colorful than mine, but, basically what happened was a student was trying to utilize their IEP as a way to get some work that they had to do modified or get out of doing some work or whatever the case may be. Now, it could have been a very legitimate reason that the student needed support or help for that, but the student didn't understand that an IEP and the accommodations that are part of an IEP is not commonality within the workplace. And that caused a level of frustration and aggravation within the employer. Now, I can't remember at this point whether that student lost their job or not, but at the end of the day, that student at least had an opportunity to go back and have a conversation with their instructor about the misstep that occurred in that interaction. So they were able to talk to the student and say, "Hey, while I understand you've worked with this IEP and you understand your accommodations that are part of it, out in the workplace, there's not an IEP that you can fall back on. So let's talk about some other ways that you can approach a situation like this so that you can, handle this better moving forward." Unfortunately for that student, if there was not an opportunity to talk to their employer and they did lose their job, chances are that student is going to be in a cycle of short-term employment or running into the same situation because they're not going to have an understanding as to maybe what they did wrong or how they could have handled the situation differently. Next slide, please, Pam. So what I want to spend a little bit of time on now and is just how we as a large organization focus on and try and tackle work-based learning, because it can be a little bit different for every organization. Lauren talked a lot about building partnerships and relationships with local businesses. But when we're dealing with an organization that serves about 15,000 students, we do have those business partnerships and relationships, but sometimes that isn't so centralized within one person. It has to be, the wealth has to be shared among many within the organization. So we've had to really kind of be creative in how we've tackled work-based learning. So I'm hoping to share a couple of those ideas and tips and tricks with you now. One thing we tell our instructors to do is start looking at what you're already doing in your classroom and how can you maybe think about it a little bit differently. So in our IT classrooms, our IT students are typically trying to troubleshoot IT issues and work through different software and hardware networking issues, etc. If we took that to the greater school audience and had them work as campus IT help desk technicians, that turns what they're already doing in their lab into a work-based learning experience. So we're leveraging our large IT department to serve as mentors for our students in that capacity. The other thing is we have a school for the arts where it's performing arts, whether it be instrumental music or performing arts or dance or visual arts. Sometimes work-based learning can be extra challenging in those areas because when you're dealing with independent artists, if they are not working, they are not making money. So their ability to serve as mentors in unpaid capacities can sometimes struggle a little bit. But if it's helping students create a portfolio or helping them develop their body of work, that sometimes helps, mitigate some of that, larger mentor ask. For that reason, we work with portfolio development for art students. So it's not just here's your high school portfolio, but they're working with industry professionals and mentors to develop their professional portfolio that they will take out as their means to prepare for employment at that next level. Go ahead, next slide, please. The other thing we look at is what different problems exist within your school or community that students might be able to help solve to facilitate learning. A lot of this has focused around a couple of our classes using the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification and that design thinking model that comes through the engineering pathway. Sometimes engineering can be a challenging area to find work-based learning opportunities for students because, some of the skills and abilities are so high level or require some technical skill that students are still learning at the high school area. So by utilizing the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification, students are able to take problems that they find in their school or in their community and utilize that design thinking model to help solve those problems. And by using and working with mentors in those local school districts or et cetera, they're able to actually work through the solving of those problems as a work-based learning experience. So 2 examples of this include a water bottle filling station modification. So during COVID and the years after when, disease transmission was still a very sensitive topic, one of our local associate schools had water bottle filling stations that were connected to their water fountains. And when they turned off the water fountains to ensure that students couldn't use those, that also turned off the water bottle filling stations. So, which obviously upset students. So a group of our engineering students actually worked to design a contraption that would allow the water bottle filling station to still work while the water fountain aspect or area was non-usable. So they worked through that design thinking model in order to be able to do that. In working with the facilities department at the associate school, the principals at the associate school, et cetera, they were able to get mentorship and work through some of those problems as work-based learning. The other thing was lunch line efficiency. You know, they were seeing a problem with how long it was taking students to get through the lunch line. So again, they worked through that design problem solving model and really worked to make sure that things moved more efficiently within their high school. And again, worked with the school staff as mentors to make sure that what they were designing and what they were doing fell within the protocols of the school. Pam, next slide, please. The next thing is think from a district perspective. Are there opportunities that would be lucrative if you partnered with other teachers outside of your building or campus? And when we're talking about an organization as big as Butler Tech, that can take a couple of different forms. That could be, you know, we have an entrepreneurship center out of our former media center. Now, we also have various business programs across our district. A great opportunity for work-based learning is if one of those business teachers pairs with our entrepreneurship coordinator and is able to provide business or marketing support for that entrepreneur or for those young entrepreneurs that are working with our coordinator through our entrepreneurship center. Another thing, and this was honestly one of my favorite projects that we ever did. When the career awareness funds were first coming down for career tech education, I was trying to think about like how we're utilizing those funds or what that looked like moving forward. And I was also trying to think about work-based learning. So I went to one of our IT teachers who was actually a new teacher at the time. And I said to him, I said, all right, I have this crazy harebrained idea, but I want to see if you're game and you want to try this out with me. He fortunately said yes. So I said to him, I said, all right, I'm going to pair you with my kids' first grade teacher. So like I said, I have 2 9-year-olds. So back when they were 7, I paired this teacher with their first grade teacher. And I said, I would like for your students to design a career exploration game designed for first graders. So these IT students did a very nice job of, in the initial aspect of the project, they created a survey, had that survey delivered to the school, had the first graders fill out, okay, what are your top 2 career fields? And they just had to circle those on a form. And then they had 2 color wheels, and they said, which of these color wheels do you like the best? So they knew what colors they wanted to use in the game, and etc. So they started off really good with their process of thinking about this game. But if we think about, you know, IT professionals, one area where IT professionals really could use a lot of support is in that customer service or that end user experience type of thing. So the nice thing that this project allowed us to do was to really dive into that aspect of support and improvement that IT professionals could use and really get these students early on an opportunity to see what that looked like. So, you know, so like I said, the students gave out these surveys. As soon as the IT students got the survey results back, they immediately went to work and they started coding away, and they were designing these games based on the top 4 professions that students, you know, have selected and all of those kinds of things, which was great, except in the background, I had 2 7-year-olds getting into my car every day, or, you know, seeing me at home every day and saying, Mom, when do we get to play those games? Mom, when do we get to see those games? Mom, when are the games going to be done? So as these conversations were happening, I followed up with those IT students and I said, hey guys, your customer wants an update on how their product is coming. So we set up a Zoom call with the first grade class and these high school IT students and their instructor. And when I tell you that it was the best Zoom call that I was ever on in my life, it was the most honest and raw type of feedback that these IT students ever could have gotten. But it was great because it was things that they never would have thought of. So a prime example of that was one of the games that, ironically, if you look really close, you can actually see in the screen of the laptop that my one son is playing there. But they had a doctor game. And the whole idea of the doctor game was that you had to click on the patients as they were getting sick to give them medicine. Well, the teacher wanted the IT students to show the first graders that game. The IT students didn't feel like it was ready, and they felt like the timing was off. Well, they eventually relented and they showed the game, but lo and behold, the timing was off. And what happened was when the high school student couldn't get to the patients in time and click to give them medicine in time, their eyes went crossed. So all of a sudden on the Zoom call, you hear 25 first graders say, "Oh my gosh, he died." And then you hear this first grade teacher in the background trying to play damage control, trying to talk through, and make sure none of the kids are upset. But it ended up working out really cool because the first grade teacher was trying to get the kids calm down, and our high school teacher interjected in that moment. And he said, "Okay, guys, I need your thinking caps on. I need you guys to tell us, what do you think would be a better way for us to indicate that they didn't get the medicine there in time instead of their eyes going crossed?" And you hear these first graders spouting out information. And one of the first graders said, "What if they just turned more or less green?" Well, lo and behold, that actually ended up in the final game. So, feedback doesn't necessarily always have to come from an industry expert. It's also seeing what the situation entails and what provides the best opportunity for students. At the end of the day, we ended up taking 5 laptops out to this school. We set up some time in their media center where the students could go around and take turns playing the different games. Our IT students interacted with these first grade students, and at the end of the little collaboration, each of the first graders was given a little certificate that said official game design contributor, and it was co-branded with their school district and with Butler Tech. So you now had 25 first graders going home talking about what they did with Butler Tech that day. So it had far-reaching implications beyond just the work-based learning side of things. Next slide, please, Pam. The next thing was looking at what local organizations might you be able to partner with for support. So are there local employers or nonprofit organizations that you can work with? May We Help is one of the ones that some of our biomedical students have worked with, and some of our mechatronics students have worked with in order to build adaptive machines and apparatuses that students with disabilities or individuals with disabilities can utilize to make their life easier. The other thing is looking at local district partnerships. In my spare time, I actually coach volleyball. And what I've done is I actually partnered with one of our exercise science students, and she served as my assistant coach because not only was she an exercise science student, but she was also a volleyball player herself. So she was able to do that, but I had her serving in the role of running all of the stretching drills and warm-up drills and cool-down drills and everything, which goes directly in line with her exercise science work. So it was really thinking outside of that box of exercise science. They have to be working with a personal trainer or with an athletic trainer or a physical therapist or et cetera. What are other ways that we can utilize that student's skills through other opportunities within the community? Next slide, please. And one of the biggest things that I want to encourage all of you to think about when you're looking at work-based learning is encouragement to think beyond the program itself. Okay, so one thing I really encourage our teachers in our district to look at is just because a student is in an engineering program doesn't necessarily mean that their mentor needs to be an engineer. And the reason I say that is because our classrooms are filled with a variety of students with a variety of different skills and abilities. And sometimes the skills and abilities that those students need help with are beyond the technical skills and abilities that come with that individual pathway or program. A prime example that I like to think about is the fact that we have an engineering instructor that used to do a cardboard canoe project, and that project still happens in our district. But, just for the sake of easy numbers, say you have a class of 30 kids. Let's separate those 30 kids into 3 different groups. The first group of 10 students, they may have 0 mechanical aptitude. They may have just been put in that class because they had room in their schedule and they needed someplace to go. All right. Those 10 students need an engineer as a mentor because however their current engineering instructor is trying to, talk about this or facilitate their learning, it just isn't sticking. So they need somebody else to try and help with them with this, because if not, if you give them cardboard and duct tape, they're going to end up at the bottom of the pool. The second group of students, they have the mechanical aptitude and they have, the right mindset and the right skills, but the problem is they're procrastinators. So their final product always looks like crap because, they're just rushing in the last minute just to get it done because they didn't use their time wisely leading up to it. That group of students, that group of 10 students, would likely be better served by a mentor who is good at project management. That project manager could be in engineering, but it could be somewhere else within another organization. Could it be a project manager within Procter and Gamble and, or another large organization within your local area? The final three, or the final group of 10 students, this could be a group of students that their engineering skills are on point, they know what they're doing. Their final products are really good because they use their time wisely. But you know what? There's also your students who you really can't tell them what to do. They have an idea of what they want to do, and that's all they want to do. That's a group that their mentor would probably be better served as a customer, somebody who has different ideas that they do, and that student has to adapt and adjust to what the customer wants. Because out in the real world, as good as you think your designs are, it may not necessarily be what the customer wants. So you need to learn how to mitigate those conversations in a professional and productive manner. So having a mentor that will do that with a student is probably better served for that group of students. So really focusing on and looking at the transferable skills, not just for that, particular job or task, but also within that career field and beyond that career field is going to be very, very important, especially when we think about the fact that, a lot of us, especially in career tech education, didn't start in one career field. I know for me personally, I consider myself a career mutt. I did several different things before I ended up in education, and the degrees that I have don't necessarily lead to the position that I have now. So it's all about the transferable skills that you develop as an adult and you hone and refine as an adult that get you where you ultimately end up in terms of a career. So why don't we start kind of, working on those and getting those developed in our students earlier and younger. Next slide, please, Pam. My contact information is here. The one thing I didn't spend a lot of time on was talking about our tracking system, because our tracking system is very different from Lauren's, and it's something that we developed internally, given the fact of our size and the fact that we're, having to transfer this information across a lot of different buildings and locations and teachers. But if you're interested, I'm certainly happy to share what that looks like and what that is. But my whole goal in speaking with you today was just kind of sharing, how a larger district tackles work-based learning when it can't really be a one-size-fits all model. It has to be something that can be adaptive to a lot of different situations and a lot of different locations.
I'm just going to open it up to the group to see if anyone has a question for Anne at this time about some of the examples that she shared that they're using in their district for work-based learning. And also, again, if you've thought of something for Lauren, feel free to, unmute or throw something into the chat. I'm going to give a moment here for anyone that wants to ask a question. So in the meantime, I believe Tom Henderson has been able to join us. Tom, are you with us? I thought I saw Tom there for a moment. Again, he's had a busy day. He was jumping in with us. Sorry that we're not able to have that available for you today, but again, here is Anne's contact information. The PowerPoint will be on the Promising Practices website. At this point, what I would like to do is provide you with two of the URL codes for feedback. So we'd really appreciate if you could provide any type of feedback regarding the presentation today so that we could continue to offer valuable information for those of you that are able to join us. Also, you'll see a code for a certificate. So if you need a certificate of participation for CEU credit, that is also available. Again, my name is Pam Hunt. I am with the Ohio College Tech Prep West region, and I'd just like to thank Ann Rush from Butler Tech and Lauren Wall from Stebbins for joining us today and sharing their information. If for any reason you would like to contact them, you can access this PowerPoint from the Promising Practices website. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes in case somebody would like to throw out a question. If not, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today and appreciate having you here. Thank you. Well, thank you, ladies. Certainly appreciate, I should stop the recording.